Hi ho, kiddos. So, covering where we left off from yesterday, this is today's lesson on Reconstruction. So, if we go back here briefly, yesterday what we went over, just go back here and it's gonna be it's gonna be one of those. Okay, it's just gonna be one of them things with the screen. Let me see if I can move this little guy out of the way. I did. Okay, it makes life so much easier. So, if we go back to yesterday, we talked about sort of the effects that Reconstruction had on different aspects of American life. This sort of like um, the pull between the two political parties, because it really, Reconstruction is a lot about a fight between the parties. And even though how the Republicans were trying to get back to the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, at least that's what Lincoln's idea was, their use of blacks as like a bludgeoning tool to force integration on the South as a kind of a punishment, it really didn't work well, leading to the, you know, groups like the KKK getting even more prominent and influential, and about how the Democrats really were just trying to go back to the way things were back in the good old days, as in when we still had slavery. And the real victims of all this were the blacks, who ended up getting stuck in a situation of sharecropping, which in its own way was a form of like even worse form of slavery. So Reconstruction is a period where you have a 9 year span where essentially Congress is the government. The presidents, you have two very weak presidents. Johnson, after his impeachment, literally could do nothing. He didn't do much before that, but after the impeachment, it was pretty much a done deal. His presidency was over. I think I brought this up yesterday. He, after he was impeached, just went back home to Tennessee and didn't even bother to come back to Washington. He's followed in 1868 by Ulysses S. Grant, who earned the nickname of Useless Grant for his time as president. Grant's real issue as president has to do with just basically with himself. Grant was really no good at business or management. He did an amazing job as a general in the war, but that didn't translate well into the office of the president, largely because Grant believed that the president had only very limited power under the Constitution. And as a result, there wasn't a lot he could do. He also made a lot of really bad choices. He was exceptionally trusting of his friends, which was not a good thing. Grant himself was honest and forthright and just a really good, decent guy. His friends were horribly corrupt people. And Grant also suffered from the fact that because personally he had never been good at business, and that, you know, he almost bankrupted his family and his in-laws' family um, with his business ineptitude, he came to the conclusion that people who were good at business and who had money were smarter than him and needed to be listened to. And as a result, he made a lot of really bad choices that really ended up in a situation where his choices and the way that he was running things was damaging the country. By the mid 1870s, even the Republicans are beginning to realize that Reconstruction has to end. The nation was stuck. It could not go any further economically, it could not go any further culturally or socially, because everything was wrapped up in the way that the South was being treated. And there really, I mean, people knew that Reconstruction had to end. People also realized that the the way that Grant was running the presidency was not helping things, but they couldn't figure out what to do. The nation may be stuck and it's not going any further and not getting any better, but how do you help it? Maybe more specifically, what's going to happen when you do? There is a genuine belief among Republicans that Reconstruction is the only thing keeping their political party alive. I mean, let's go back. In American history, you had, the Democrats have been basically the same party since day one. You had the Democratic Republicans that Andrew Jackson just shortened their name to Democrats, but they've been the constant party. The Republican Party, however, well, you go back to the original, you had the Federalists. Well, they fell apart at the War of 1812. They're replaced by the Whigs, and they fall apart after a while, and then they're kind of replaced by the Know Nothings and then the Republicans. The one thing that united the Republican Party was abolition, the desire to get rid of slavery. Well, now that slavery is gone, there's a genuine fear that the Republican Party will collapse just like the other ones. And it'll be a loss of power and a loss of control. And for some Republicans, there's a genuine question of how will it affect Black America? The Blacks are relying on government, and without, like, if the government changes and Reconstruction officially ends, how is that going to affect them? So there's this sort of perpetuating problem of they need to get out of it, but they just don't know how. Well, as luck or fortune would have it, there is a way that presents itself, and it has to do, it's tied in with this magical number right here, 1876, the centennial, the 100th birthday of America. And this is where we'll pick this up tomorrow. Peace and love.